The stage is yours. Keep glowing. They whisper. They are watching. They plot. But you ascend. Let us be honest. Some folks can't take seeing you win. They laughed when you struggled, disregarded you when you needed help, and questioned any desire you dared to express aloud. But now, they can't take their eyes off you now. They linger in the shadows, eager to learn how you continue to defy expectations, evolve, and shatter every barrier they imposed on you. You were never intended to be little. You were not created to blend in. Your energy has always been loud, unmistakable, and magnetic. That's why they attempted to reduce you. They were afraid of what would happen if you learned how powerful you really are. But here's the deal. The loudest barkers are generally the ones who pay the most attention. So, let them chat. Allow them to stalk. Allow them to choke on the remorse of underestimating you. Because, while they focus on your every move, you're already 10 steps ahead, untouchable, unconcerned, and unstoppable. The stage is yours. Keep glowing. They never realized the significance of your presence until it was gone. They persuaded themselves that you were simply another temporary relationship, something disposable and commonplace. However, now that you're no longer in their orbit, an emptiness remains. They claim to have moved on. Tell oneself that the past is buried. But if that's true, why do people still gravitate toward you? Their intellect claims they are okay, but their soul knows the reality. It was never just about losing a person. They lost a whole frequency, an energy that lifted everything it touched, and in its absence, life's ambitions become duller, more hollow. The illusion of power they once had has crumbled because no matter how much they attempt to rewrite history, the indisputable reality remains. You have a foundation they never knew they needed until it was too late. You set a table for me in the midst of my foes. My cup fills when you anoint my head with oil. Psalm 23 verse 5. Allow me to tell you something. When God's hand is on your life, His favor is upon you. People will have no option but to watch you triumph. Not because they want to celebrate you, nor because they ever genuinely believed in you, but because God will use them as witnesses to your ascension. They assumed they had you figured out, that they could go without consequences, and that their absence would disturb you. But now they wait in quiet, scrolling and looking for proof that they still matter to you, that their shadows continue to linger in your life. That restless sensation, the impression that someone is watching, is genuine. Because they are. They will not confess it. I won't utter your name out loud. Will not appreciate the impact your accomplishment has on their minds. But their soul understands what their pride refuses to acknowledge. They did not just lose a person. They lost access to a vast sphere of favor that they had no idea was tied to you. You're here for a purpose. If you feel called, answer it. Click. Join to get access to rare information, in-depth insights, and a strong community. This is not just a membership. It is an awakening. Step into your divine mission. Join the chosen. Some individuals don't appreciate what they have until it is gone. They expected you'd always be there, and that they could enter and exit your life on their own terms. We assumed that no matter how far they went, the door would always remain open. But God does not operate that way when He removes you from a location. He doesn't just take you out. He puts you above their grasp. And that is precisely what occurred. Initially, they attempted to persuade themselves that they didn't care. They told themselves you were just a phase, just a moment in time, only a lesson learned. However, the more they attempted to go ahead, the more they felt it. That hole, that emptiness, that unmistakable shift that tells them something is missing. Because they lost more than just you. It was the access, energy, anointing, and heavenly favor that accompanied you wherever you went. Now they are watching. Oh, they're watching. They peer in from the shadows, expecting to detect indications of conflict, looking for cracks in the foundation, waiting for proof that, just maybe, you weren't as powerful as you seemed. But every sight, update, and word said about you simply aggravates the hurt, because you flew while they stagnated. You soared while others remained in the past. You entered a future that they will never be a part of. and the most difficult pill for them to swallow. It's not only that you've moved on, you glowed up, it's that your presence is even more powerful. Your favor is much bigger. Your influence will become much larger. They assumed time would fade your radiance, that life would humble you, and you would remain little without them. But instead, God set a table for you, a feast of benefits spread out in front of those who questioned you. And now they have to sit where they left you, gazing at what might have been, knowing that no matter how much they watch, how much they regret, or how much they wish they could go back in time, you are no longer with them. Not only physically or emotionally, but on a whole new level. They will never attain because what they lost was more than simply a person. It was a favor. It was for protection. It provided access to something far greater. And now they are on the outside, looking in, realizing that while they were busy watching you, you were already too far ahead to notice. They did not expect you to emerge from the ashes. They imagined their departure would shrink you, that without them, your path would be uncertain. Instead, you have become untouchable. They don't understand how you keep ascending. The fire they believed would devour you really made you stronger. And now all they can do is watch you evolve. And from a distance, their main regret isn't what they did. It's recognizing that, no matter how much they want to, they'll never be able to join you in this new chapter. They never anticipated who you would become without them. And now they're left chasing shadows, clutching at echoes of a presence that no longer belongs to them. You've claimed your authority, and their world has been left in darkness. Watching you is the closest they'll ever get to regaining what they've lost, because the light they mistakenly claimed was never theirs in the first place. God's gifts and calling are irreversible. Romans 1129. Allow me to tell you something. When God places his hand on you, there is nothing in this world that can take it away. Some individuals believe they could walk out of your life as if you were simply another choice, as if your presence were something casual, as if your favor might be found somewhere else. They believed they had time, that they could ignore you and yet benefit from knowing you. But here is the reality. They left you with the anointing that was tied to you. They walked away from the oil, the covering, and the spiritual link that was uplifting them without their knowing it. And now, they can now feel it. They notice it at first. They told themselves that it did not matter. They assured themselves that everything was great and that life would continue as usual. They attempted to develop without the foundation you supplied, to create without the favor that once supported them. However, reality has a way of making us humble. People who take God's blessings for granted. See, they assumed you were simply a human. What they did not realize was that you were an assignment. They were not just walking away from a relationship, friendship, or opportunity. They were walking away from a wonderful arrangement. And now, as your life speeds, your benefits grow, and your name is discussed in places they will never enter. They sit in the spot they believe they had outgrown, recognizing they have lost something they can never regain. Oh, they will not confess it. Their pride will not permit them. They'll pretend they haven't noticed. Pretend they don't care. Pretend your achievement doesn't rock them to the core. But pay careful attention. I saw how they lingered. Pay attention to how they keep track of things. Look at how their so-called apathy resembles obsession. Because this is something they will never say out loud. They didn't just lose you. They lost the finest version of themselves that existed while linked to you. They are seeking for something, anything to fill the empty space and restore what they previously had. But nothing fits. Nothing flows. The formerly open doors are now closed. The favor that formerly followed them is no longer present. If your heart is overflowing with God's blessings, let that love radiate. Click the huge thank you button and donate $20 or more to sow seeds of faith that will touch countless lives. Your giving exemplifies His richness. Be a channel for His grace and watch His kingdom grow through you. And you keep ascending. You keep sparkling. You constantly reaching new heights that no one expected you to. Because this is the part they didn't understand. Your fate was never linked to them. They were borrowing the light, mistaking it for their own, and expecting they could depart and continue to shine. But as soon as they left your presence, the warmth faded, the route darkened, and the journey got more difficult. They're straining now, reaching for power that they had no idea was never theirs in the first place. See, some people don't understand what they have until it's gone, and other people don't recognize who they were linked to until that connection is broken. Now all they can do is watch. It's not because they care, not because they miss you, but because your success is the most obvious reminder that they made the worst mistake of their lives. There is nothing they can do to reverse the situation. God summoned you. God has covered you. God exalted you. And now they're on the outside, looking in, realizing that no matter what they do, they will never have access to you again. What they lost was more than just you. It is all that you brought with you, that agitated sensation in their chest. It's not remorse. It is disaster. They started the fire, believing they'd be the one to escape unscathed, only to discover too late that they were never the flame. Only a shadow was cast in your light. They were certain that if you waited, your world would come to a standstill. But time did not stop. It moved you ahead while leaving others behind. And now they are sitting in the wreckage of their own decisions, trying to make sense of what they let slide through their fingers. They look for evidence that they were unique, that they occupied a position no one else could. But every action you make informs them that this is more than simply leaving. It's about the fact that you never hesitated to take on something larger. They felt you would remain linked to their uncertainty, that no one else would ever understand you, and that they represented the peak of what you might be. But now, from the sidelines, they can see the reality. Not only have you moved on, but you've discovered something they could never be. And it is a hurt they will never be able to overcome. Behold, I'll do something fresh. It will now shoot out. Will you not be aware of this? I'll even find a passage through the woods and rivers in the desert. Isaiah 4319. Allow me to tell you something. When God moves you into a new season, no power in this world can pull you back to the old one. Some individuals assumed they had you figured out. They imagined you were always accessible, always be an option, always sit there, thinking they'll eventually recognize your value. But they didn't realize that when God moves you, He doesn't just shut doors. He seals the shot. They didn't take it seriously at first. They moved away as if they were making a decision, as if they had the upper hand. They assumed they had time. They thought they could go explore. They thought they could go and return anytime they wanted. But time has a way of exposing the truth. The fact is that they weren't just losing a connection. They were losing access to the heavenly favor that was bestowed upon them via you. You see, you were more than simply another person in their lives. You were the bridge, bringing the anointing, transforming the environment, and pouring into them when they had nothing left. They misunderstood the grace for something mundane. They felt they could locate it any place, that their relationship with you was not special, and that their lives would not alter without you. But now, they're locked in the same cycles, fighting the same conflicts. You're flying. You are rising. You are moving into blessings they never imagined you'd have. And this is the hardest thing for them. You do not even glance back. You are not bitter. You are not pursuing. You are not grieving. You're prospering. You are entering every room they vowed you would never enter. You are becoming everything they always doubted you could be. They can sense it. Oh, they will not say it out, but their acts reveal the truth. I'm keeping track of everything you do, trying to figure out how you keep ascending. Look for indicators that you miss them as much as they miss you. But the truth is that they are viewing a version of you. They no longer have access. They are stranded on the outside, gazing in on something they previously owned but did not value enough to maintain. They mistook you for a fleeting moment in time, something brief and transient. But they didn't realize that you were never a phase. You were the shift. God was not going to let them retain what they were unwilling to cherish. He was not going to allow them remain linked to something they merely intended to drain. So He removed you. He lifted you. He put you in a location where they can see you but cannot approach you again. And it voids that weight they can't shake. That is not simply regret. That is not simply nostalgia. That's their spirit, recognizing what their pride won't concede. You were the greatest thing that ever happened to them, and now you're untouchable. They claim they have moved on, that everything was for the best, and that everything is just as it should be. But something is lacking, and they can't quite pinpoint it. The discomfort creeps in gradually, uninvited, until it becomes difficult to ignore. Their life's rhythm has shifted, but they can't explain why it no longer flows as smoothly as it did. It begins with tiny reminders, foreign sensations that seem oddly familiar, echoes of conversations from long ago, and a sudden awareness of the areas you used to occupy. Then it creates a tune that formerly had no significance but now evokes something profound. Forgotten memories make their way to the surface. Your name appears in unexpected places, leaving an impact on the planet itself. And before their intellect can properly understand the loss, their soul has already begun to disintegrate, grieving something the ego refuses to admit. This isn't just nostalgia. This isn't just yearning. This is not only about missing someone. It's an unshakable fact that runs deep inside them. They let go of something holy. They walked away from something valuable. And now they are troubled not just by your absence, but also by the knowledge that this door will never open again for them. Do not offer dogs anything holy. Don't toss your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may crush them beneath their feet before turning around and tearing you apart. Matthew 7:6. Allow me to tell you something. God eventually stops allowing your presence to be misused. There comes a point when the doors that previously opened for the wrong people slam shut, and no amount of sorrow, apologies, or distant observation can ever reopen them. See? Some folks believe they had time. They believed they could take and take without consequences. They misinterpreted your compassion for weakness, your love for dependability, and your patience for permission to continue playing games. But here's the deal. God does not allow his chosen ones to squander their talents on others who refuse to progress. He will draw you out of situations in which your worth is not appreciated. He will remove you from situations in which your presence is taken for granted. Because you were not designed to invest into individuals who merely wish to deplete you. You weren't supposed to wait for someone who never intended to meet you at your level. They were first unaware of the alteration. They expected life would go on as normal, and they could return when they were ready. That the energy they previously got from you may be replenished. But gradually, they began to feel it. The stillness, the absence, and the loss of favor they had no idea was related to you. They began seeing you in places they never imagined you'd go, walking through doors that they assumed would always be near to you. And now? They are now on the outside, seeing the life they might have created, the love they might have fostered, the blessings they might have given, had they just chosen differently. Oh, they do not want to confess it. Their pride will not permit them. But deep down, they realize that every achievement you achieve serves as a reminder of what they have lost. Every fresh chance accentuates the reality they attempted to deny. Every new level you reach demonstrates that you never needed them to begin with. And here's something they will never say out. They don't merely miss you. It's the version of themselves that existed when they were linked to you. Because you didn't just bring love. You provided knowledge. You did not only provide company. You gave vision. You didn't just offer them your time. You offered them access to a higher level, a more positive outlook, and a future they couldn't imagine for themselves. And suddenly that access is gone. Not because you're angry or carrying a grudge, but because God led you someplace they can never go. You do not follow this route for applause. You don't proceed for validation. You succeed because you were always supposed to. You grow because your soul refuses to let you settle. And while they sit there reminiscing, lamenting, and repeating the past, you've already moved light years ahead, untouchable, unstoppable, and entirely committed to the mission. They formerly had front row seats. However, they failed to appreciate the blessing when it was given to them. And now, they can only watch from a distance, knowing they will never stand alongside you again. Everything is falling into place with seamless accuracy. What previously seemed unthinkable now occurs in the blink of an eye. What used to be difficult has become simple. This isn't luck. It's the strength that was always within you. It has finally been released. The weight that formerly held you back is now gone, and the acceleration is apparent. They see it. They sense it. That's why they stay in the shadows, following your every move and attempting to make sense of your ascension. They need to comprehend how you continue to thrive, why opportunities appear to follow you, and why your world expands while theirs stagnates. However, the solution is straightforward. It never was about them. They were not your source. You were theirs. Your presence was the reason the doors opened. Your energy was the stream propelling them onward. Your relationship was the hidden power that helped things go smoothly in their lives. And now that you're gone, they sense a change. Their progress has stagnated. Their impetus has evaporated. Their brilliance has waned. Meanwhile, yours becomes stronger since the instant you walked away. You totally embraced your own authority. They expected to return when they were ready, but they had time to find their way back. But time has passed them by. Now all they can do is watch, knowing that no matter how much they yearn for it, they will never again stand by you in a world to which they no longer belong. The stone rejected by the builders has become the cornerstone. Psalm 118:22. Allow me to tell you something. When God calls you, He does not wait for others to see your worth. When He mocks you for something bigger, He does not require the approval of people who previously discarded you. Some folks assumed they had plenty of time to work things out. I assumed they could come and go as they wanted. I assumed they could ignore you, dismiss you, and return when it suited them. But what they didn't realize was that God's favor does not wait. The doors that were formerly open are now closed, and they do not have the key. They were first unaware of the alteration. They went away believing that life would continue as normal, and that they could resume where they had left off whenever they were ready. However, time has a way of imparting things in the hard way. See, while they were caught in the same cycles, repeating the same patterns, making the same excuses, you were progressing. You were growing. You were ascending into a domain that they no longer had access to. They assumed you would always stay where they left you. But by the time they turned around, you'd outgrown them, outpaced them, and leave them standing in the dust of their own uncertainty. They are still looking for the old. You're still expecting to discover yourself in familiar locations. They are still certain they can contact you in the same way they did before. But, in actuality, you have altered dimensions. You no longer exist in the world that they formerly shared with you. The distance between you is no longer measured in miles. It's about levels. And while others stagnated, you rose. And now, they can now feel it. The emptiness, the quiet, the unmistakable weight of what they had lost. They may refuse to accept it or may seem unconcerned. They could pretend they didn't care. However, their acts betray them. They observe from a distance, looking for a sign that you were still thinking about them. I'm hoping to see even the tiniest hint of sorrow in your eyes. But they don't comprehend that you don't glance back. You're too busy accepting the blessings they were never intended to share. Because it is the truth, right? They weren't just losing you. They were losing all that you brought with you. Wisdom, protection, and favor. When you were present, the doors opened without difficulty. Now stay closed. They felt they had their own blessings, but they were only there because of you. And now that you're gone, the well has dried up. You were never supposed to wait for them. You were never intended to postpone your destiny for their convenience. God did not make you to beg someone to recognize your value. And now, they're sitting outdoors. I am watching you soar. I am watching you sparkle. They are seeing you go into a future they will never be able to experience. They are left with only one question. How could they not see it before? But the explanation is irrelevant since, by the time they realized what they had lost, it was too late. The chapter has been concluded, and the door has been shut. And you're untouchable. You didn't depart bitterly. You did not go in defeat. You did not lose anything. You were drawn into something larger. You were never intended to remain somewhere where you were undervalued. Never intended to exhaust yourself. Proving your value never meant making yourself smaller so that someone else may feel greater. The powers that guided you saw what you couldn't. the dishonesty, energy drain, and stagnation that threatened your future. Every setback served as a turning point. Every treachery was a disguised gift. Every disconnection was divine intervention, protecting you from what no longer deserved to be with you. They weren't just holding you back. They were tampering with something way beyond their expected outcome. And the universe acted. Now, the change is apparent. They sense it. They sense it. That's why they continue to observe from a distance, feverishly attempting to figure out how you keep accelerating, winning, and soaring without them. They may be unable to express it in words, but their soul understands what their intellect refuses to accept. You were never under their power. You were never in their possession. You were the gift, the uncommon brightness, the one thing they undervalued. Until it was too late. They believed they had the upper hand. I assumed they were the ones making the choices. I thought they had chosen you. But now they stand on the outside, watching you flourish. I'm seeing you move into your power, watching others admire something they ignored. The reality eventually sinks in. It never was about them. It was all about you. The most horrible realization. You were never the one who needed them. They were always the ones who needed you.